I hope this is on. Hello people. I'm gonna try to not edit this as much as I want to, because I do stutter and I do not have the proper grammar, but you know what, who cares? This is my normal way of speaking. And I'm still able to convey a lot of what my thoughts are to other people. Maybe they can understand me, maybe not. But I have a couple of things. I hope you enjoyed my little animation that I did do. And it took millions of trillions of years. Okay, let's see. What is this? Okay. I suck at reading very enthusiastically, also very beautifully, having a poet voice. So this is how I'm gonna do it, which is my normal monotone voice. Yes. And so I have a couple of things that I wanted to say, and I wrote these poems, this essay, almost a month ago. And as every day it keeps on escalating with worse news being broadcast about immigration, the deportations, racism, misogyny, etc., everything is happening. I decided to make this essay a month ago, and it actually took me almost half a year to try to convey my thoughts in writing as best as I could with the minimal amount of vocabulary that I do know. So, but I also have changed a couple of my thoughts and have kind of looked over and revised what I had, because my writing, if you don't want any spoilers, you know what, whatever, you'll get the point. Dun, 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 dun. Whoa. Okay. Da-dun. Da-dun. Anyway. Hello people. I am here once back again with an animation. Not an AI, but you know what? At this point at this point, my animation could be the same as AI, because look at how bad it is. Anyways, I'm gonna scream and shout and let it all out today. This is my third official time trying to finish this audio. Welcome back to another video. Anyway, what was I saying? Anyways, I'm going to go vote today. Not in the New York City votes, but I wish and I hope that young people do go out to vote for whoever you would like. I do hope it's not another mayonnaise person, but you do as you wish. I do hope that you stay informed. Anyways, so this is again my third time recording this, and every single time that I've been recording this, I've had different occurrences happen, and my anger grows even more and more, and my frustration grows even more and more things has happened. And I've done this video and this essay that I'm going to present to you guys for you to learn about my opinions, and I will learn about your opinions and life experiences, because as someone that is a people pleaser and also someone that was a kid that not enjoyed but kind of had a bunch of envisions, or I don't know how to say this, I truly imagined and believed that maybe one day I'll have the ability to live in someone else's shoes, to know what the fuck what world am I in, to understand it even better. But anyways, so I read this essay, and I've been trying to record this essay for almost 2 months now, and as everything has been escalating, and I do hope that everyone stays safe, I've had different opinions, and again, this is all about me, okay? I'm the type of person that would make something and just refuses to start all over. I'll continue it, if I don't like it, at least I finished it, and it is what it is, you know, and it could honestly just disappear in the face of the earth and I would not care. But at least I remember, like, that the progress of it. Like, even if it's finished, like, the whole progress of it will probably be more in my memory than completing it, if that makes sense. So again, I finished this essay. I've made some edits. I have some opinions on my essay. This is not a manifesto. First of all, this is not a manifesto. This is just me saying my feelings, trying to write out my feelings, because I am not a person that likes to write out my feelings at all. I just like having multiple conversations in my head, and that is that, you know. But as people say, those thoughts and angers will kill you one day if you keep them in. So I would rather not die by my own self-infliction. So I keep saying so. What else? Please go out to vote if you can. This will not be up by the time that you need to go vote, because I believe tomorrow is the last day for the New York City mayor vote. But I hope and pray for the best. Future self, please update. I don't know. And then what else? With the escalations of shit happening with my fellow immigrant people, Latino, not just Latinos, Haitians, a lot of people that are just immigrants in general that are in hiding or just trying to prevent any type of attention on them. I feel for you guys. Lo siento mucho. Yo sé que yo no soy religiosa, pero una gran energía le va a proteger. Y, you know, this is me explaining my feelings and regrets, and not regrets, having so much anger towards just the world in general. And I think that a lot of young kids could relate to this, because I am someone that was a very angry teen, but not just because I wanted to be popular. It was mostly because I hated the potential future that was after high school, or because I really wanted to grow up. In the end, I wanted to grow up really fast, and you know, my reality was my fear when I was a kid and my anger. And now as an adult, like, I'm still angry, but I have to control my anger. And I know there's other people that can explain this more, but, like, I have to be an adult that shows no emotional, any type of anger, of frustration, because in the end, all those emotions will never be validated, or no one will take you seriously because you showed emotions. But all these emotions are valid towards the cause and effects that has happened due to someone else's hands, you know? Anyways. So, if you can relate to this, I'm happy you can relate. I'm not happy, but, like, that's not really something that you should be able to relate to this. I truly, to the bottom of my heart, my whole entire soul, I never wish any of these feelings that first generation Americans are facing with, which is the battle of being greater and better Americans, but also feeling like you're not able to do enough, right? For the people that have made you become the better, great American than you are now. Okay, anyways, so let's continue. I do have a speech impediment, and I'm not a really theatrical or enthusiastic reader, so please bear with me. Also, when I was listening back to a couple of my audios of me speaking in Spanish, I don't think I have an accent, but I also sound like I'm reading off the Bible, because in church, that's how they would speak. They'll be like, Dios te amor se merecía, Dios puede decir toda la or whatever, you know, in misa. And so that's how I'm singing. I'm not saying my Spanish poems and stuff like that. So anyways, after a bunch of how many minutes? 10 minutes. I'm going to continue. Dear inner child, you, a child of immigrants, have consistently thought about your parents' future, while your parents only cared about your future. That's a heck of an Uno reverse. Yes, Americans should consider immigrants' future and your future as a whole, as one. How can a true American empathize without hearing the actual voices, without experiencing a dearest friend or neighbor willfully expressing themselves? I'll tell you this, you won't hear their voices unless you're able to listen, not just willingly. People listen willfully, but people with true intent is rare. They must learn to truly listen. This video also isn't just to emphasize the issues within the Latinx American perspective, but also the Latinx immigrant perspective. Either you are truly trying to understand my intention of this video, or to learn the aftermath of this video. Either way, it should come and bring conversations within the community or outside the community. I'm going to intentionally use simple terms for my people to understand me. To over-explain myself as I do best, I use simple terms for my people to understand me. I'm not saying that we aren't highly educated people, but the people I grew up with who chose a different path but came from the same place or vastly different than me with far less. I also use simpler terms because I am not a researcher. I do like reading articles and watching videos on topics like this. So, yeah, but books will be the next obstacle. I would like to say 2 initial comments before I begin. Again. First, I want to say I'm not a moralist. Mortal? I'm also not a journalist, although you can consider me as one, but I use all real political moments with real immigrants. Oh, from real migrants. And then I write a little paragraph that also states that I will not be using AI in any of my videos ever again. As I see that back then, even 2 months ago, I saw the increase of artists and creators fucking using AI and replacing artists. Like, what the fuck? Even now, like, as June 23rd, 2025, I just saw recently, I don't know when it happened, but an artist using AI to curate, like, a fucking simple animation video for their music video.
That is clearly harmful.
How many times do I have to tell you? You can simply pay anyone to make that simple edit. Jesus Christ, go to Blender. I use Blender. It's free online. Blender.com, free to download anyways. And you also can get brushes online. Use anyone's brushes that are free. I also wrote, critique me as you wish, because collecting opinions as a people pleaser is a gift for me. I am not a writer, but I am a wannabe poet. You will catch me slipping at times with being one. A what, you may ask? A moralist. At times, I have so much pride and so much respect for my parents on what they taught me and what they've learned on the way. However, I had to unlearn impressionable thoughts that at times my parents didn't realize or did realize what they were doing. Today's topic, I'll be using the phrase to be or not to be. This is debated within our minds to think if I should do a certain thing or not. A simple yes or no. I vaguely remember Hamlet from Shakespeare because it left an impression on me. The thought of a hypothetically avenging as a hormonal teenager without the full context of moral empathy was the reason why I was so intrigued. For example, my distance with the Catholic religion and non-fanatico dad would state without context of que es mal y que es bueno. Or what most would think, what is wrong or what is right to do in this society, what is evil or good, what makes me more human than a product, but never finding an equilibrium between the two choices. Most of our parents have taught us not to steal, right? I'm assuming, right, audience? While others who had to survive and didn't get much pushback on a moral ethic to never steal due to their social environment. Others were taught to find a loophole, or as my dad would say, ¿Quién son vivos? Find loopholes. To those who don't know, vivo means like to stay vigilant or to be able to take advantage of something or someone with self-gain at times. The only phrase I can think of at the moment is to stay alert or to stay on guard at the right timing. And Reddit states it could be also like a manipulator or an opportunist, but you can let me know. In my opinion, this falls in the gray area in which I wholeheartedly like to explore a lot. The grays area. Liberating oneself with their own self-indulgence is what capitalism wants. Some will ask, what is capitalism? Capitalism. God! Well, my good sir, this is Slither.io. That's what I picture in my mind. The cool math game with the snake, you know what I mean? The consuming neon ball eating that tries to avoid its own tail. Yeah, that's the one I'm trying to say. I see it no longer as being the don't tread on me snake from the American history as a comparison, which taught me that in my history, which was taught in my history class, but more like a fat and greedy snake with a false presumption of unity. Or as Britannica states, capitalism, the economic system that dominates the Western world, in which most means of production are privately owned, and production is guided and income distributed largely through the operations of markets. Okay, you buy what I make. However, what I can make for you to buy, you will never have the ability to make yourself unless you reach a certain level of stability to buy the whole means of production. And that does not include rising of taxes and, etc., etc. The following are lived and living proof example of my life, or a life, which are vague and discreet for others because people like to leverage off of Latinx community. So please read between the lines. I'm not telling you anything new, but this is new to me to admit because being one of the few Latino Americans that don't care about capitalism failing in their wake and having parents propagandize still and support capitalism to this day, it's kind of new to me to realize the reality of my two worlds, which is kind of my whole entire existence of realizing that I have multiple dimensions, one here and then also one in my other country. Well, not my country, I wouldn't consider, but a country that I have so much history in. It's it's not my history, but it is my history. I don't know. Anyways, now continue. This example is, my dad is an example of someone that was on the fence of pro and anti-capitalism growing up, although he wouldn't admit it. But he never gave up on the U.S. old age phrase to strike gold, or to go big or go home, even after living in the U.S. for over 30 years. Initially, going home wasn't ever an answer, ironically, since he and my mom's ego blocked all means of reason because they didn't want to face any concerned or accusatory looks upon arriving back to the motherland. Also, a debt for nothing wasn't worth it for two young, egotistical adults. El oro tan cerca, and yet my parents' reach wasn't more oro, but curiosity, to say the least. Like a honeymoon exploration, you can say. Two vastly different perspectives of life. My mother to spend to her life's content, firm to idealistic values, and to explore the world. And my father, self-sufficient, producer of life, and frugal. I will not deny their thrive for more lux towards a future life, but their end result of living their grounded life was enough to create a modest obstacle of storytelling. The battle of vagueness wasn't on what they gained, but how they gained it. It wasn't just accusatory looks from family members questioning why they left home, etc., etc. It was literally reversed to them with those same exact looks, mixed with confusion and envy from colonizers and foreigners on how my parents gained on what they gained. You know what I mean. All their stories hidden from the world will likely die with them and my siblings, and it's hard to accept that. They're just another immigrant or migrant to you, but to me, their unique story tells how and why they settled due to manipulation, emotional roller coasters, and their versatile, self-reliant faith. And they'll never admit that because of God. Picking my parents' mind was my initial start to questioning my life on the way it is. Like, why do I fear so much? Or why do I keep moving forward with so much baggage? Why do my parents validate my inner struggles because of their decisions? Why can't I question them? Why can't I question my whole surrounding? Why can't I relate to what I see? Can I live like someone else to know what I am internally comparing to? Why do I care so much more? This makes me sound egotistical than ever because in fin, I am making my opinions apparent and my life experiences with those around me about me. Anyways, a lot of questioning here. I do believe that some Latinos fail to recognize their own internal questions because of our survival mode. I don't blame you. I blame our system for failing to recognize you. If they can't, why should you, or why should you start to care now? Our own life missions are confusing. We were meant to have high standards from birth, to integrate into the society, but not the one that you were born into or to survive, to be better, to have more than the one that raised you, like in education, wealth, or status. My dad's internal mission was never to take, but to give all his life, to make a living and provide for the family he committed himself to under the Roman Catholic Church and under one God. Statistically, you can say that we were on the margins of low or lower middle class income in South Florida. Yes, you can consider that. But my dad never made it feel like it was. All the necessities of life under one roof, under one name. This was a start on how his vagueness was shown to others while growing in the U.S. This reaction was due to the unsolicited comments and doubts from other people. The statuary river of true happiness and envy of others was apparent to my dad. Vibes, if you want to say. As he progressed in life, people and his family members doubted. Not really in him, but due to his position of having the capability of owning what he can. This resulted in our society creating out of me and my brother an example of kids trying to fit the Converse shoe, or, in my brother's case, the Nike Jordan shoes. A first world problem I am aware, but flaunting with unclear receipts on how you got the item or what you had to lose to gain the item is frustrating for a kid. This might be confusing because I'm being vague. True proclaimed Americans fueled the narrative to keep up with what was new, to consume the newest and shiniest plastic objects that defined your stability. Plastic against plastic, metal against metal, and gold against gold. Swiping away the only plastic with value. My dad didn't give me the world, and I'm giving you all these cliche sayings. He gave me the knowledge, although I give you these cliche sayings, he gave me the knowledge of recognizing your priorities in life, to stick by what is morally important. I would like to pan the subject to affirm the children in my community that all the necessities of life aren't enough for love to be stapled and defined. More is to be given to the life your parents have birthed and created. No es suficiente la comida y el agua por un hijo. El reconocimiento de un hijo como una fruta que por afuera es duro y firme, pero por dentro tiene carne roja y agua fresca que un padre debería descubrir. I fell for materialism. We, as my brother and I, fell for the capitalistic propaganda that my dad resented, and yet he discovered a way to fulfill some of our American golden desires. We struck gold with him, but at our parents' sacrifice. This was more than the necessities of life. This was the American life. Apart from being materialistic, Americans crave things to make sense in their life, an authentic life, no matter the cost. I do believe that people should explore and experience other cultures that influence our American culture. Hello. Mexican culture plays a big part. Haitian culture, especially Caribbean culture. But extreme ways of consuming in life are at the sacrifice of other kids and mothers and Mother Earth herself. It's sinful at this point, and this is coming from a non-religious person. There's no better way to shame someone, I believe, than saying that. I brought up my dad as an example of forced conversion into a modest life. It wasn't always like that to an extent. My parents both lived comfortable lives in their homeland when they met, but my father had a very erratic life when it came to his family's wealth. Although with such rigorous mountains showing up on his economic line graph, he kept almost the same mentality, to give what he could, to never take more than needed in any extreme way. For example, he reconstructed his mother's house and constructed into a 2-story home, or 3, I think. I was still filled with 8 other almost full-grown adults, mind you, in their early 20s, and yet he was still resourceful without much help. Personally, I include this small and not to the full extent example because maybe one day I'll go into depth on what my dad did and how he constructed my grandmother's house, because it wasn't from the ground up, but he grew from that base, if that makes any sense. My dad's fluctuating wealth is rare but not unique to the Latino immigrantes. The known perspectives that most Latinos, damn, I keep saying Latinos or Latino or Latino come here for a better life is valid. Others come, okay, sorry, let me repeat that. The known perspective that Latinos come here for a better life is valid. Others come here to refuge. Others come here from American propaganda or Latino manipulation. Others come here to expand financial assets, etc., etc. There are hundreds of reasons why Latinos come here. I hate this single perspective and only one valid reason why someone is here in America. Latinos come here from all over the world to have a family and raise them the best they can while contributing to the community and paying fucking taxes. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of Latinos or Latinx, I'll alternate between the both, it's just habit, advocating for boycotting certain stores, and not only certain stores like clothing stores, essential stores. These are essential stores where most Latinos shop at. Walmart knows their customers very well. Maybe direct your attention to boycotting Disney and other fast fashion and big corporations that don't support your health or your illegal parents' health. Humanitarian to a select few. Come on. Latinos shop at Walmart and Sam's. That's a known fact. I think majority of us know. They're the biggest consumer, over-consuming promoted items to those that are willing to pay for convenience, to not consume time, to think harder, not smarter, is sadly the end of creating a consumer cycle. Smarter is to think of how the kinetic energy okay, well, I don't know what I meant by that, but I think I was trying to say people that choose convenience think that it's thinking smarter, but it's actually thinking harder in the end. Because it's not thinking futuristically on how it'll affect you or your family. As a guinea pig of Walmart free COVID shots, I would like for you to recall the COVID-19 era and how only the essential stores were the only ones open. You're essentially trying to take away everything from communities. Walmart is essential to communities. I'll bring this up because this was the first time my whole family was able to take something in return after contributing their hard-earned money into a corporation. Free healthcare, free COVID shots, no need for any form of identity or background check. My father and I... Oh, okay. So I include this part, and I also saw Walmart, do you guys even know how many Walmarts there are in fucking like Florida? Like, it was like left and right. Like, I'm telling you, it's so common that like we would go to Walmarts because seeing each and every one of them, they were so close to each other, but that was just me moving. They're so close to each other, and each of them were kind of different from each other, and that's what we enjoyed doing, other than going to like malls and like things that my dad would take us, like the beach, or what would be an example, like the mall, shopping, or whatever. Like, a thing that I enjoyed and my sister enjoyed was going to like different Targets and Walmarts. And exploring different communities, of course. So then I include an example, or like a little story time. My father and I coincidentally encountered an Ecuadorian woman that was personally here visiting Florida, but went to Walmart to get a fucking free shot. Due to Ecuador's having limited shots for everyone, they were prioritizing the elders there, which is fine. But I won't get into more Ecuadorian politics because I'm still learning about it. This suggestion isn't to abolish the whole system. This is a call out the purpose to adjust and regarnish what is damaged for the time being, to direct the boycotts to other unessential big corporations feeding off of your hard-earned money. Some migrant Latinos have their own minds on multiple things at the same time, and I can understand that. I'm choosing to be sensitive because some people don't like strict directions on how they like to live their life, but they don't mind if, like, the Bible tells you, or a pastor does, or, ancient scriptures. People come from multiple governmental... Okay, and then I include... my people come from multiple governmental, I don't think that's right, governmental abuses from harsh living conditions, comparing their old reality to their new reality. Last things on their mind sometimes can be the earth and over-consuming sources, and call it fucking self-care for a fucking weekend. Being labeled hard workers comes with the price of neglecting others, but to my personal and some other Latinos' opinions, especially my dad, this is reality for the majority. In a time of survival, people cannot stop and think of alternatives, and I acknowledge that. And I never mean all, never all. Okay. Boycotting is essential for change, but a sacrifice of food and resources will never be on the forefront of migrants' minds when change needs to be made. I empathize with both realities of parents purchasing necessities from big corporations which are available in certain communities and sacrificing for the dire need for change. I do believe most of our parents come from the scarcity of food supply, so it would never be a done deal for them, especially if your power relies on your money. I never mean to judge my Latino migrant people, but at times of revolution, they are most likely never be at the forefront. Their kids will be of course. Hello, but due to deportations, threats that are happening, continuously getting worse and worse. I don't know how true that can be, because fear seems to be, and I'm not judging you, because I feel the same thing, but also, like, fear is consuming us all, and either it's fear that's consuming us, or the need to rebel. Anyways. Do not put words in my mouth about being complacent because of fear, or giving excuses of never boycotting or making a change for those fears. But we will get to that. Okay, I don't know what that means. Okay. My father and I have encountered Latinos who crucify themselves. They sacrifice their time, their kids, health, and education for money. Your power isn't in your vote or a voter percentage graph, but an economic line graph. I'm gonna give my few remarks. I'm sorry, I was in my car. I think I kind of was going back and forth and me understanding. It's like, I'm not really saying much about like something that we can do, but like, I think little steps, and I was thinking to myself, and of course my thoughts are not original because they're guidance on how to live. And I'm not telling anyone to live the way that I should have lived or how my dad made us live, but and I'm not also saying that we are the example, because people need an example of like a winning example in order to believe it or continue that life. But I think small steps of boycotting, and boycotting means like stopping your purchasing, stopping what you are doing now, and reflecting on where you want your money to go with the morals and the principles that you have. Put your money and your worth, because money and you are intertwined into one at the moment, should go to corporations, or not even fucking corporations, because how much more fucking money do they need? But like places that do support you and want to be a representative for you, and that they are willing to sacrifice their own fucking livelihood to represent you. Okay? And I think small steps of directing that, rather than like big corporations, because like fucking Walmart, like these essential stores that a lot of people go to, because in my opinion, in the Latino community, markets and, what is it fucking called? Farmers markets are fucking expensive. And if you're coming here and fucking America for the first time, you go where people mostly go to. You go where people are secure in where they're going to. They're also like really prestigious people that come here for like good quality things, and they think because it has a label on it, that means quality. But you know what, at this point, like, until they open their eyes that like corporations are not here for your health, they're really just here to take your money, people need to slowly start realizing. And I think taking baby steps, or people talking about this more, might help. And maybe like a guide, because if the Bible is telling you, certain Bibles are telling you step by step on how to become this better person, maybe there needs to be a step by step on how to be environmentally healthy and humanitarian, rather than like self-reliance. You know what I mean? But anyways, that's all for today. Maybe I was just jambling. You might be thinking speaking Spanish will help my case to spread alternatives to lead the boycotting in the Latino community, but my target audience isn't immigrants directly from the motherland, but the children of immigrants who had to learn how to translate quicker, those who were never taught to speak their native language because of survival, those who had to learn from PBS kids, the No Sabo kids, the kids that have heavy accents, the kids that speak perfect English plus slang. Jeez, even though half whites. Latinx mothers only. JK. Anyways, I'm just kidding. Subtle differences in upbringing have led us to one mentality of a battle for one. Hence why my dad is an example. He wasn't alone doing this, because he had my mother by his side, but you can consider him as the vivo one, finding any door slightly opened and sacrificing certain things for him to progress. Like, he sacrificed his time being there for his firstborn's life, most of it, you would say. He sacrificed his youth and his energy to further autoeducarse. Why can I... Okay. My father has always urged us the principle of never spending my money on one singular store. Never set on accessibility and convenience, but set the value of your money. Never spend on something that is not needed due to it being in bulk or promoted. Money was his power to overcome the notion Americans labeled him. No chucherías. Hey, 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 hey. No chucherías. No chucherías. No chucherías. No chucherías. He would say. Say it with me, people. No chuchería. No chuchería. My dad's foresaw plan included him to travel to multiple stores to find the least expensive item. Usted gana el tiempo, no el tiempo gana usted, he would say. He put his mind and his money intertwined into one. Others would say investing and growing the money would result in a better life. But my dad would think otherwise. Okay. To my interpretation of my dad, he kind of made me feel like money was a wooden pathway to the ocean. The wooden dock is there to help you oversee and lift you above the ocean. If you feel like you need a closer look, you would chop up some wood and build further to get a closer look at the vast ocean. Going above and beyond into the ocean, you start entering the ocean's world, the living unknown. The ocean helps us, so why should we try to harm it going above and beyond? Some would ask. Why do you need more wood when you can admire and benefit from a certain point? He didn't want to settle on conforming to a home, neighborhood, or community. With such a bass to his voice and the courage and las ganas in his soul, the only thing stopping his transparency to the world he committed himself to didn't allow him because of those estúpidos papeles. Spreading his wisdom was never a battle to overcome. It was being allowed to be heard without fear. But yet, with that fear, it gave him more of a rage, and plus his small stature kind of didn't help. He was outspoken towards anyone who would make a change. Status or no status, he was truly trying to integrate into his community. His foreseeable inclination of greed within the Americans in the country made him have a pretty intense feeling. He could recognize the difference between his peers behind all scenes of blue collar jobs. Vagueness to his rhetorical questions, silent observations was the end response. But the end of all experiences, it had one contributing factor of greed and consumption. The greed to have more than you already have. The consumption of wasted time. So that is why he urged us to never give into lux and accumulated dust, but to spread the consumption to multiple places and buy what was the bare necessities to life. Although this is not a long-term effectiveness, I guess, this is an alternative to boycotting a whole essential store. I'm going to be quite frank. It'll probably discourage a lot of people if they, cut it off de una. Like, the shit that they consider chucherias, So, but again, I understand two sides. I'm including my dad's small perspective of politics, which he has a big opinion, really big opinions, since he has watched and learned about American politics since living here for 30 years now. That Republicans' consumerism don't appear during Democratic presidential term, but rather appears during a Republican's term. I think this is a known idea, maybe, like Senate maybe, but what do I know about politics? While the poor Republicans weep now, Latino Democrats / liberals are struggling to find a balance between where to spend money and the time, as my dad states. Whether you would like to dispute this statement or not, this is not my problem, because my top priorities, isn't the economy, maybe a little, and I don't know why I said that, but rather social perspectives and issues, mainly the ones that console the idea that what I once had compared to what I want to have. Okay? I suck at staying in one topic, so please try to follow me in the mixture of mine and my dad's opinions and perspective. Although I don't want to share too much of his political opinions because this is not him stating, and I would gladly him share his own opinions on his own. Hello, my people. This is another part of me reading my little essay. I don't know what else to say. I feel like I'm almost done, but I'm not. It's infinite at this point. I'll probably give my last few thoughts, but here we go. Okay. Dismembered arguments, discussions that are circled consistently in the Latino home are common during this time. Human conversations during election time, Latinos can connect with the severance relationships between family members and friendships that occurred. And that's how they are dividing us in the end. Like finding out that your cousin's political opinions differ from yours. Discovering your brother prefers bitcoins over human salvation or human rights. I can list them all. Rather, it's huffing with your parents about having certain privileges that Latinos have compared to the black community, or whether or not your hard work was easier than the other minorities because of said privilege. Or rather you are contributing to the sick cycle that you're willing to enslave yourself for $1. It can't just be hard work. I have privilege even saying this, but the fact is true. This is the country your parents chose or had no choice of return. You and your parents are contributing to whatever way with the same end result. A battle for individualism. You have been long separated from your land due to sacrifice. You have been disconnected from your culture. You will be a percentile within a split up DNA results. You will be a lineage of statistics. The scale is ranked for you. American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, or white. Nothing's a coincidence. Every single one of us has more privilege than the other. Have you taken the time to realize it? Every human experience due to their division or societal oppression are validated here, but individualism is guiding our wrong support with one another, with whom we can relate to the most, with whom we can place our feet in which shoe the best. As a light-skinned South American Latina, I do acknowledge the taste for money principle as a contributing factor to save your immediate family as a gain of self-worth and a motive, but it equals to nothing to community-based. Like, I want you to think what will happen when you reach a point of comfortability. Who are you willing to lift off of their comfortability, as a sacrifice? Why is it white-skinned Latinx people the first people? Oh my god, that's so hard. Like I want you to think what will happen when you reach a point of comfortability. Who are you living off of their comfortability as a sacrifice? Why is it white, light-skinned Latinx people the first people on your mind when it goes to helping, quote unquote, your people? Why aren't Indigenous and African Latinx people in the conversation? Why does it have to affect you to start caring? I'm not attacking those who want more because they didn't have anything in the past. Wealth growth is good, and I'll never fault the lower class for growing. However, this has gotten to a point where influencers and real-life people are gaining off of others and have opened their puta mouths supporting dog shit. Donald Trump intrigues you, bitch? The economy should be the only graph your parents are able to participate in, huh? They are so okay, that's me getting mad. I'm no longer sitting and staying silent about ignorant white Latin... I'm no longer sitting and staying silent about ignorant, light-skinned Latinos. In fact, you should be the last thing on my mind. But my tolerance is running low, so I have a lot to say. No one should tolerate ignorance and the excuse of being cultured or flavored as a car. I will personally not tolerate some Latinos that have the privilege of having a parent get their estúpido papeles and have no puto vergüenza of circling a black, fully filled, stayed within the fucking line vote against their own people. Would it have made a significant difference? No. But have you created a division because of your own self-interest? Yes. This rage is internal, and I can't shake the fucking statistics of categorized voters. First, I want to blame mothers for creating our men to only care about money. I want to blame our Latinx community for claiming the only certain people community, quote unquote. I blame Latinos for making this a relatability challenge. I want to blame my parents for bringing me here without a speck of knowledge of the U.S. reality. I want to blame the language barriers Latinos have created. I want to blame the white people who made us become more like them to fit in with them. I want to blame history for fucking repeating itself. I even want to fucking blame the USA that has preferred me to experience my culture through their eyes. Is it authentic enough? Now that I got that out of the way, none of this makes any difference. My money talks more than I do, so boycotting and knowing where to put your money isn't more important and more significant to me than my internalized and personal issues about the world. This isn't some woke shit or New York woke shit. This is reality. People want community but haven't contributed to what was built off of Mexican liberation in American history. This isn't just a Mexican problem, Americans. This is a whole Latino/Hispanic problem. If you have not planned to push back with your parents about the truth regarding American Latino history and how history is repeating itself, then you have no right to claim the quote-unquote parte de la raza you claim to be. You expect your parents to continue going on life without a speck of history behind this land. You settled on your parents' behavior as irrelevant as the U.S. considers them as a whole. Especially the Latin influencers. Latinx is a gender-neutral term to describe anyone who identifies for... Oh, okay, this is me explaining what Latinx and why I use Latinx. Oh, Latinx is like a gender-neutral term or word that is replacing Latino or Latina, because as you guys know, we make everything either female or masculine. Feminine or masculine. So it's like la puerta, that's a girl. El vaso, boy. Which is la puerta is like the door, and el vaso is the cup. Especially Latin influencers who haven't spoken about migrant issues and current events, and who have only spoken about Latin only migrant issues. This isn't politics. This is the people who have been criminalized and being deported without going to court. This is families being separated. Have you ever cared to speak about Latino man, Abrego Garcia, who was wrongfully deported, which I will include more updated because this was like two months ago, and I wasn't hearing a lot of Latino influencers speak about this. Maryland, Abrego Garcia, who was wrongfully deported from Maryland to El Salvador for the assumption that he was part of a gang due to his tattoos. He has never been charged with or convicted of any crime. Read up about that bitch. The fucking Maryland senator flew to El Salvador to help anyone from our community, and yet some Latinx influencers don't want to speak about shit like this. Y'all want to bring up Jocelyn Rojo Carranza. Que paz descanse. She committed suicide, or she ended her life because she was bullied about her parents' legal status. This was a social issue. Either within the community or outside, we need to protect our kids from feeling these internal issues. I believe that Mexican influencers are the face of our cause for immigration, but they shouldn't be the only ones talking about the issues within our communities. Why can't you care to speak about this? The unification of all Latinos from different countries are our children. They're American children. We grew up in the American system. You have found some commonality with your neighbor or anyone from school, and yet all you see each other as different or better than someone without papers or supreme cultural difference. I want to lay out, I'm not a good example of being woke, or I didn't just start caring. I had to identify my microaggressions towards people and unlearn my tendencies. First, I have never said the N-word, not to be too vague, but I have profiled black men before. I mention this because this is very common in the Latino community to also find their racism and microaggressions. For example, having the black card or anti-Arab as a commonality within themselves. This is an issue. To exemplify myself further, I have always loved black women from the get-go because black female teachers were truly the only ones that made me feel like home or comforted, because I couldn't recognize anyone similar to my mom at school. I'm also a mommy's girl forever, and yes, I did cry every time I had to separate from my mom. But anyways, both introductions like preschool and kindergarten, I had black women as my teachers. Even though I was never one to criticize or be racist towards black women, I did have those racist profiling towards black men due to my parents never experiencing black Americans before moving away from Miami. They have encountered Afro-Latinos, but never true black Americans in Miami, as they claim. They base their perspectives on black Americans on the news and their surrounding as generalization. They had to understand the system, but they couldn't take the time to understand systemic racism until now. There aren't excuses. I didn't just start caring. I've been listening, and I did start realizing that history is repeating itself, and these are scary patterns. I would also like to take this time to praise black women in being my sole educators from then and now, and you guys didn't have to be. Well, from now, that's what I'm trying to say, like, even then and now, but, like, now it's mostly, like, black women educators on TikTok, and they're still educating people, and, you don't have to be, or not even educators, but also, like, just TikTok or influencers educating other people, and you don't have to be, but you want to be, and it's not, like, a mandatory thing. People should also self-learn and Google shit. I love black women, and as a queer woman, there's no fetishization, but I know the feeling of being fetishized, so this is me stating my love and attraction to black women in all shades and sizes. Because there is such lack of it and not apparent enough when they do so much in this country. Why can I not say I love black women without being scrutinized? Thank you. Now, I want to read this poem from me, but I'm not a poetic reader, and I don't know how to write, but this is a small and to-the-point poem. I can only speak for the community I am in, and for my parents' experiences told to me my whole life. They can't be outspoken because of fear, and that fear almost touched my courage to be the token. Inherited trauma is real. Tears were shed because of being misled. My parents couldn't comprehend the history and the factors that have been said. What they see is fact, and what they don't know cannot be backed. An immigrant's mind being so jam-packed. It fascinates me to learn more and more of their impact. Sailing or walking across the U.S. lines to risk for a new life, it was or was not to equate to the old new life. Either alone or with a husband or wife, they set a plan to take the next few steps. History was made and continues, so no missteps. You know what I fucking mean. Anyways, I hope that this doesn't appear like performance advocacy for you. This is my like side notes. So I don't know if it feels like I'm for like this is me and the screen and then you. Like there's like a medium between us. But I want you to know as an audience that I'm trying to do this very calculative, but also show you emotions that are really apparent and very visible on people that are not educated, such as me, because I'm learning as I go. But these are emotions that are pretty common, and sometimes this rage could also lead to more rage and more discrimination and bigotry, and in the end we're not going to get to anywhere. And although I am very mad at times, I do think that this anger should lead to something more resulting than emotional. Although you can express your emotions, I think that it should have a result in the end of making some kind of impact. Because if you're just kind of being angry out in the open with no one to see, like say like you're in the forest and you're just screaming and no one's able to hear you, are you actually like are you being heard at all, other than like the trees and the animals around you? I feel like that's how anger, and that's how I feel like when I was doing this. I felt like I was screaming into the forest, and that I needed to scream into the forest, but in the end, like, does it really do anything if I come back to my society? I don't think it does, in my personal opinion. So I think if you feel like there's some type of way of being angry, I do think that you should express it, but also reflect on why or how that anger is coming, or where that anger is coming from, to put it to good use. These topics have been on my mind, and I'm going to speak freely, especially these personal experiences and about boycotts. I will not deny my knowledge that there is a way to dismantle, and there should be sacrifice from the collective to make a change. Can't I be a dumb bitch and say what I want about humanity, and what I want about humanity to win? Oh, can I be a dumb bitch and say I want humanity to win on the internet? Can I be a dumb bitch that doesn't want animals of the ecosystem not to go extinct? As a light-skinned Latina, I'm not seeing many of us care. Well, actually, I'm not gonna say. A lot of Latinx women are pretty. I'm not going to deny, like, I follow a lot of indigenous women that do fight for our ecosystems and our environment. There's, like, but, like, before, our representation was a lot of Latin women that were light-skinned and that were only talking about our environment, and, like, the indigenous people themselves that live within that environment and not the city were not being pushed. You know, the people that were like, I went to this university, studied all day, all night, and, you know, went to the forest, is alongside the group of indigenous people that want to help this ecosystem, but, like, the indigenous people themselves were not being represented or even helped, because you need a lighter person to be your representation in your face. Why? That doesn't make any sense. So in all of this, like, I don't want to be some light-skinned Latina trying to represent a whole group. I want to be part of something that can be impactful, especially for the environment. But as a lot of environmentalists, you have to discuss the human side that is affecting the environment, and in the end, you help the environment, you help the humans. So am I a humanitarian in the end? Maybe. I'm just kidding. Anyways, I think I said also a bunch of crap. Okay. This cartoon is not meant for kids, but obviously a kid will come upon this video. This is to heal my inner child. Nothing more, nothing less, due to my queerness, curiosity, but before my queerness, it stems from history in general. I was able to feel this curiosity of life and question everything. Thank the energy above that you gave me the curiosity, and shout out to my dad, because he had a lot of curiosity in life also because of another. Oh, and shout out to my dad again that left him and his siblings. I was vaguely saying that what the fuck am I saying? Anyways, I was vaguely saying that shout out to my dad that had so much immense amount of curiosity about life and why life is the way it is. But, you know, my dad has some flaws, and I wanted to say his flaws. But in the end, do you think that me saying my dad's flaws would help anyone if he hasn't fixed them? Or, like, the only person that is able to make him understand isn't the internet, it's me. Hello? You know what I mean? Like, his family that is trying to change, and my mom as well. Like, there's critiques as well. I love my mom, and I think my mom was very impactful on how she was very motivating and saying, and she did, like, she did insinuate that along our lives that our lives are what she wanted. Okay. That hurt a lot. Sorry about that. My mom did insinuate that most of our life, like our freedom that we have as young girls, me and my sister, was a life that she wanted to live, which was have a car, go out, go out whenever she wanted, buy whatever she wanted. She had a very strict mother, and she was very rebellious. And my dad was pretty obedient, so it was a mixture of both, of like being rebellious, but of your own self-indulgence, and then my dad being obedient for everyone else, you know? It's kind of crazy, you know? And I had a mixture of both, and I think my parents are both very balanced people. Like, I feel like a Libra inside, where like I have one side of my mom and then another side of my dad, and you would think that, like, as much as I'm saying, like, they just balance each other so well. They balance each other so well for me and my siblings, and I don't know, for my brother, like, my brother's included, but if you realize that there's so much balance for us as kids. But for them, they struggled in having, I don't know why I'm like sneezing. They struggled in having some similarities. Like, they had a lot of, what is it called? They would troca? What is it called? Like, bump heads a lot. There you go. They would create a lot of friction because they had many differences in their lifestyles, in their family, in their habits, stuff like that. But in the end, I think they both learned from each other. And they're both very stubborn-headed. What else? So the main point of this art that I'm making, that is very disappointing that I'm seeing other artists use simple fucking AI to make a simple fucking animation. Which I'm the type of animator that likes the process of it than more of the finishing factors, because like, I love details and I love focusing on so many tiny details, and so and by the end of the progress, you won't notice it until someone is actually trying to see the little tiny details. So that's pretty much it. This is really heavily inspired by zodiac signs, Chinese zodiac signs. When I got into K-pop, they were really heavily into Chinese zodiac signs. And now they're interested into MBTI. Let me ramble, okay? This part of the video is going to be me rambling. They're now like Korean K-pop idols and like the Korean society. Of course, I don't know nothing about the Korean society as much as I know about my American society. But the little that I do know is that they focus on MBTI. And why am I into Chinese zodiac signs? Chinese horoscopes and zodiac signs, American or Western zodiac signs? It's because of my mom. My mom was not heavy on the zodiac signs, but she did listen to a lot of Facebook horoscopes people, horror horoscopes people talking about your horoscope, right? And so then I was like, listening to it, and I didn't really understand it. And before I could comprehend words and what they meant, I remember a very, very vivid memory of me going to a doctor's office and my parents reading off our horoscopes. And of course, it started off in Spanish. Of course, I was listening to like my horoscope in Spanish, and I a funny thing is that, like, or maybe remember, is that my sister, she was crab. She's Cancer. She's a Cancer, and the symbol is a crab or whatever the fuck it is. You know, it looks like a crab, but I'll insert here. And I never understood it, but ironically, my sister later on became really like allergic to shellfish. So, you know, in my head, I was like, this is a clear sign that we're synced. We're synced from the heavens above and the ground below. So that's what caught me. And I was like, you know what? If that's a sign and I wanted to be a mermaid and my horoscope is aqua, I was like, it's a sign. So I really got into that, and my mom going on Facebook and listening and hearing like our horoscopes being read, it really It really did something to me. Well, I said I was probably around 8th or 7th grade where I mostly gained consciousness about me and my surroundings. I recall a time in 6th grade learning about Greek mythology and being so fascinated by the Greek gods and the coloration and the correlation of zodiac signs in ancient Greece. After that, I did my late night research about zodiac signs in English. Later on, I got into K-pop, and I noticed that Chinese horoscopes and blood types were the icebreakers for a lot of idols. I was always used to zodiac signs, so this was new to me to see. I found out that I am the year of the horse. The year of the horse, and it stuck with me. I didn't think I was quite a stallion initially, but Megan has made me feel like I am and act like I am. Okay, well, I just wanted to say I love Megan the Stallion. I did draw this back in 2021, which I'm pretty proud of, and subconsciously inspired by Black Panther and also Black Hello Kitty. So take that information and do what you will with that. This animation is now inspired by the Google T-Rex loading page, so it'll now become my loading page. Okay, this is a lot that I said. Okay. I wanted to get my anger out, and I hope you understand that I learn more. As I learn more, it'll validate my hatred towards the Europeans. But I will learn to find humanity in all. I will never wish this life to anyone, although very minuscule to what happened around the world. I can ignore it, but I won't, because I would not be able to grow out of being a selfish American. Being a child of a ghost is a crazy concept, but accurate. It felt like I had to behave. It felt like we had to be chosen to keep moving. I understand undertones. I felt this is 7th grade being rejected from white people. Also, I'm self-aware enough to know that I sound like an anime. The life of an immigrant and the child of an immigrant is not a monolith or a competition to whom we can relate to the most. Okay. Hello, it is July 27th, 2025. I am completing this video. I've done this multiple times. I'm sorry for the clicking of the mic. I've had a lot of times that I wanted to make my final notes on this video, and I'm gonna make them quick. Other than saying that, like, I hope you understand that these are feelings that I was feeling during the time of another threat to my community. Like, back then in 2026, when I was a little bit more conscious of, like, when I was 14 or 15, and we were going through this, it was mostly in denial, feeling in denial that it wouldn't happen to me, or if it does happen to me, the stress of it, my parents stressing about driving and going to places. It was mostly driving is a concern, and now being much older and experiencing it once again, the same fear and threats. Honestly, I with these opinions that I've given because of an essay, I'm gonna be honest, didn't seem quite prepared. I wasn't preparing myself for any of this. I wasn't educating myself for any of this. And although I'm much older and you would say, like, you're a dumb bitch, you should have been doing your research, I was not. So, but it's better late than never. And I noticed that in my community, it's like, I don't really, either you are really prepared or you've surpassed the expectation and have the money to help your parents or family members or loved ones in this situation, or you're just uneducated and you are in denial, saying that it wouldn't happen to me. This isn't my problem. And I'm currently reading We Will Be Jaguars or Seremos Jaguares by Nemonte. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this. Nenkimo. Nenkimo. I hope I'm pronouncing that. So Nemonte, this book, she's an Ecuadorian, Amazonian, indigenous woman. And she's an environmental activist that I've been reading. And ever since I've been trying to get into and figure out what I want to major in or study, and which is environmental science. She pops up quite often, and if you look up into like Ecuadorians on Google, you would see a lot of indigenous women, or mestizas, or white people, or white Latinas, white passing Latinas. Although that's in Google, I'm not gonna lie to you, and a lot of Latinas can relate. Us Latinas or mestiza women that look more indigenous or are indigenous, were always broadcasted or filmed as maids and workers. Always the supporting actor, you know. And sorry, I was thinking, and because of that, you know, I never saw people like me when I was younger, and it was more tanner, and I have brown hair, brown eyes, thick eyebrows, hairy arms, hairy legs, a lot of like me represented in telenovelas. Never happened. I mostly saw light-skinned women, women that had curly hair or straight hair, women that did not look anything like my family members unless they mixed with other white Latinos. Anyways, that was never the case. Like, I wasn't like, if I was a kid Googling Ecuadorians, I never was like, oh wow, I see a lot of indigenous women. No, I saw like in telenovelas the opposite of what Google is representing. But whenever, back to when Nemonte, she always popped up, and I always had curiosity of her and her movement and how much she has done to help out. I'm currently reading her book, and maybe one day I'll make a message in Spanish to let her know that like her message is reaching so far as an Ecuadorian American. And as she wrote in one of her pages in the, let me see, and I'm not a book reader either, girly pops. I'm not a book reader, but I do like reading about people's lives, and my dad doesn't like reading about people's lives, and I don't like reading about people's philosophy, because we're both like, we can think on our own, and we can you know, we like to live our own lives and our own ideas. And my dad's like, I don't want to read about no one else's life because I want to live my own life. And then I'm over here like, I don't want to read anyone else's philosophy because I have my own ideas. But in the introduction, I'll read a little bit. Hopefully I can read it well. In regards to her ancestors and her returning back to the Amazonian, los bosques, no, la selva, after being a missionary. And this is, I'm not that far in, but when she was a missionary in her young age, she had some dreams from her ancestors telling her to come back to the la selva. And she returned back to study her plants and become part of her community once again, and her indigenous community. And in one of the paragraphs it says, for us, stories are living beings. They breathe life into our homes, into our forest. They pulse in our blood, in our dreams. They stalk us like jaguars. A little bit forward. Here you go. They are powerful beings, like rainbows. They bring peace, like lightning. They bring war. And they are always changing. That's how we know that they are alive. A story dies when no one tells it. Our stories have never been written down. Not like this. Part of me is scared. Have I told too much? Left too many tracks? What will you do with my story now that it has been written? I hope you will let it live. And I kind of relate to it a little bit because because I don't know if other people can relate to this, but as a first generation American, it seems like our stories and our document status should never be told, that we consistently would have to lie or keep living as a normal American lie all our lives, if that makes any sense. My dad tried to make it feel normal, but in the end, it never was normal. And me having that curiosity and that weird feeling of like trying to make it feel normal, it frustrated me even more as a kid and as a teen. And this like trauma of being first gen, and also the trauma that my parents have had to live through, I would never wish this on my worst enemy. I would never wish this life on anyone, because this is something terrorizing. It is something dehumanizing to see that people are dehumanizing your own family, parents, community, and accusing them of like even fucking eating dogs. And I'm not saying my community is the immigrant community, of raping and killing people because they fucking wanted to fucking kill. And accusing them of not even paying taxes. It's like in our minds, we're thinking that you haven't even spoken to any immigrant in your whole entire life. That like you are assuming because of what the news is telling you. You have not spoken to an immigrant and you've only been served by an immigrant. And you're just like, why do they have our jobs? Why? And I saw this video of a fucking Jubilee having those fucktards saying, like, why are you saying that that they're taking jobs that Americans don't even fucking want, when we have evidence? And I'm not saying that's a narrative that we shouldn't go through, because that means that Americans are incompetent of doing anything. And I'm not gonna lie, it seems like you are too, how do you say, like, you are too hoity-toity whatever, that like you think that you shouldn't stoop that low of washing dishes and cleaning floors and cleaning bathrooms because you have the American name on it. And there is societal shame on that, because if you were saying like, I didn't go to high school, I didn't finish high school, I'm a dishwasher cleaner in a restaurant, and you think our society will look at you even better. Like, even as me, like if I was saying like, oh, I'm doing a gap year in like university, or even going to community college, that's a societal not normal thing. People look down on you because you're going to a community college, and that's invalid. Your education that you've learned does not have any value in some cases. And our society is fucked. It is fucked on how we view like higher, if you pay more, if you sacrifice more, if you are basically dehumanizing yourself more, you have a better superiority than anyone else. Anyways, back to that narrative of Americans, of the immigrant community taking jobs that Americans don't even want to take. And in my dad's opinion, and what he has seen in hundreds of jobs that he has never been a person that stuck to one job. He has the opinion of that, like, Americans do not take any job that immigrants usually take. They are too narcissistic and too egotistical to even stoop that low. And I'm not saying that if an immigrant has stooped so low to work in those positions. No, because a job is a job, and a job does get done. in my opinion. But he has stated that he has never seen an American work behind the scenes of what a job and what an industry needs to still function. They prefer to be in the limelight of such job. Anyways, I had a couple of comments in regards to this thing. I also wanted to say that empathy isn't enough. It doesn't feel enough. Rage will lead me to the European Western behavior, and all for one. Education and acknowledgement of history and our indigenous roots are powerful, speaking words unimaginable to the ancestors of never retreating. I don't want to be like them. I refuse my parents to be like them. I refuse you to be like them. And I'm talking about the Western mentality. The past is now. Latinos hate stereotypes, but continue the Latino trend alive to keep thinking we're all a monolith. I'm not like you, and you're not like me, but I accept our differences if you don't accept mine, even if you don't accept mine. Until you reach my peace, I will stay with the thrive, the hope, and an eye out for you. Latinos keep the capitalism cycle alive to prove to the whites that we can spend and pay. But now, when you reach a level of comfortability, what would you live off of? The person you ate off of was your past life and ego. Stay safe. Baby steps are ideal in this moment. And I want to also provide a couple of industries. And when I mentioned about industries that are supporting the anti-DEI movement, or they do not want to play into that part of DEI, I'm going to say, although it says right here, I mean, it's written perfectly, in my opinion, LatinoFreezeMovement.com. If you go in there, there's a list of companies that do commit to diversity, equity, and inclusion, which, if you don't know what that is basically just being a diverse company that you will shine light in minorities, if you want to say, and part of your company. And one of the top few, it says, do not shop here, scaled back diversity, equity, and inclusion, or have been passive. Amazon, Target, Walmart, Hobby Lobbies, we already know, bitch. They Republicans from the start. Home Goods, Marshalls, Sam's Club, Starbucks, Lowe's, Goya, Fruit of the Loom, Dairy Queen, Coca-Cola, Baskin-Robbins, Brown Farman, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, Ace Hardware. Okay. That's a couple of things, and a couple of areas that you can, that they say that you can shop at, is Aldi's, Costco, Kroger's, Giant Grocery, Trader Joe's. Products that you can buy: Ben & Jerry's, Delta, Dutch Bros, Elf, Ulta Beauty, Macy's, Steve Madden's, Old Navy, Nike, Nordstrom. Okay. Although this is a huge list, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think, in my opinion, we need to hone into a couple of companies, and hone into the companies that are the bottom tier of that company, that is still fucking in control of and administers of. Although I am a person that is in multiple, educating myself in multiple movements, such as the Palestinian movement, the Congo movement, and the Latino immigrant movement, I think there's a commonality of companies that have been listed multiple times. I mean, I know that's a sacrifice. I know that there's kids that have to buy groceries and purchase in bulk because they don't have enough transportation, that they have to go day by day sometimes to go buy things and cheaper things. And I used to buy the cheaper things because my dad is colo, if you want to say, but he also was respective of his money. He did not want to spend anything not needed. He did not want to spend anything because it was on sale. He did not want to spend anything because it was because he wanted chucherias. I don't know how many times chucherias. Anyways, he was not that type of person. So even if this is not a guide, and I was saying before in a previous, I don't know if you heard, if I placed it in here, but I do see that a lot of Latinos rely on pastors and religion to guide them in a life-to-life tutorial, if you want to say that religion is a tutorial way to becoming a better human and make your life a better living condition than you are now in your past or in your future, in your present. I do think that a lot of Latinos also want a winning story to live off of, but I hope that you live your own life and you structure your own life on how you want to, but also be humanitarian and considerate of other people and other differences that you have, if it's not harmful, and that giving is more than receiving in the end. And in this community that is very discreet, I think our humanitarian and our humanity and our love for the community should not be hidden and should not be something that we should never present in action or physically or visibly. I think that's what both of my parents combined have taught their siblings. And my dad would ask consistently of like, what have I shown you? And he would always say like, a person that has principle and morals, a person that is self-sufficient and dependent and independent, not dependent, and a person that doesn't kill or rob. And he was like, and he would always say like, although I wasn't like religious and I don't go to churches, I am a very religious person. I'm not like, I believe in God and I believe in the amendments of the Bible, the 10 Commandments of the Bible, and those has structured my way of life. I don't know, I'm probably rambling now, but anyways, this isn't a winning story for many people to like look at and see as like a step-by-step guide. But I think principles and values that you need to hone in and make it a life mission rather than money, rather than the pursuit of living off of someone else, the pursuit of living off of Mother Nature and her resources, as you don't give back. I think it's mostly to give back and to never receive. And that's what I think we lack in as a Latino community, where because we are in a society that we have given back so much and we expect a return. I think that's what has created our mentality where I've given so much. I've given my whole life to this community. I no longer feel the need that I need to give back in whatever way. And I'm not saying that all Latinos, because there's a lot of community, the Mexican community has given back and has fought. And I never mean the Mexican, I'm not going to lie, I never mean the Mexican community, because a lot of them are very united. And I'm not part of the Mexican community. I was part of mostly a diverse Latino community. I'm not going to lie. It was not a majority of what, it was more of like, they came from different areas, everyone. And I think that because it was so diverse, it was never united. And I think a lot of Latinos from every country needs to know that the one commonality is our children, our American first generation children or American children, that we have that, and that's what unites us all. And our stories that are quite similar but never the same. They're all unique in their own way. But individualism is never going to move this movement into a better way. And I know that, like, I mentioned capitalism, and that's another story, and I'm not trying to be like, let's be anti-capitalism, but because my dad was never that, he was always like a moderation of it. I think that was my main point. I don't know, I'm probably rambling, but I hope there's peace and love in the future. The escalation is getting quite scary at the moment, and just know that protesting is a priority and essential for movements and our voices to be heard. Emailing, calling people. If you want to follow my IG, I post stories and I post links and any article that I come upon I share it, and it'll be linked down below. Just because it's not happening to you yet does not mean it can never happen to you. It shouldn't ever happen to you, but to prevent that to never happen to you, you need to help others. You need to help whoever needs it. I know our discrepancy is a battle that we need to face, but we can get through it all. Thank you very much. Bye, guys.